Hi, I'm Kate Richbourg, and welcome to my class. Today I am going to demystify how to solder a jump ring closed. I'm going to teach you how to attach it to a pendant, but it's also terrific for making chain or attaching a clasp to that chain. This is a perfect class for the beginner, but if you've had some experience with soldering, you might pick up a few tips along the way, so I think you'll enjoy it. The materials we're using in today's class are solid metal: copper, sterling silver, gold-filled, brass, nickel. All of those metals are appropriate for our technique today. You also want to make sure that you don't solder a blank that has any stones in it, or else the torch is really going to damage it. And of course, for safety, you want to cover your table with a non-combustible fireproof surface, as well as have a working fire extinguisher handy. And don't forget to wear those safety glasses, kids. We want to take care of our eyes. All right, so now I am ready to introduce you to the amazing world of soldering on a jump ring. If you're ready, I'm ready. So let's go light those torches. The tools that we're using in today's project are an annealing pan with pumice stone, a kiln brick, a titanium solder pick, tweezers and the cool cup that came with it, and the Blazer butane torch. You're also going to need some butane fuel, and all of this is resting on my fireproof surface that I've used to cover my table. To remove the fire scale off of my soldered piece when I'm finished, I'm going to use Penny Bright, but you can also use pickle and a pickle pot to clean the fire scale off of your metal. To add the jump ring onto our blank, we're going to need a pair of chain nose pliers and a pair of bent chain nose pliers. The materials we're using for today's class are an assortment of sterling silver jump rings, a sterling silver blank, you choose the gauge, and some easy solder paste. So before we solder the jump ring, we need to attach that jump ring to our blank. And I've got a couple of pliers here to help me do that. I've got a chain nose plier right over here and a bent chain nose plier over here. And you always need two pliers to open your jump ring. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our jump ring, and I'm going to grip it firmly with my plier on this side with my bent chain nose. And I'm going to come in with my regular chain nose plier, and the little opening is right there in the middle, and I'm just going to swing it open like so. And I want the opening to be large enough so I can just slide my blank right on there so it has just enough room to fit. Let's show that really close up because I want to show you how to really get this open perfectly. Now we're going to go ahead and add the blank to the jump ring and close that jump ring up. So I'm going to slide my blank right on. And you're going to close this jump ring just as we opened it, but this is the really important part here. We need to make sure that this jump ring is closed with no gap at all, so it'll solder just perfectly. So I'm going to grab the sides of the jump rings just as I did to open, and now I'm just going to rock the jump ring back and forth to get myself a little bit of tension, a little bit of work hardening on the ring. And then I'm just going to squeeze it and pop it right into place. Now you want to check and make sure that the jump ring is flush, not only looking at it this way, but also looking at it this way. And I need to finesse that ring just a little bit more to get it really perfect. Check all angles. Let's take a look here. You can see that that jump ring is completely closed and flush and ready to solder. Now if you make your own jump rings or if you purchase jump rings, you want to make sure that the opening on those rings has been cut completely flush. You want to make sure that it comes together just like this, That tight connection is going to make for a successful solder join. If one half of your jump ring is flush and the other half has a little point, just like that, you're not going to get a nice solder. So we want to make sure, whether you buy them or whether you make them, that they're nice and flush. If they're not, just give them a little file and they should be okay for you. All right, now let's get down to the soldering. All right, here's my soldering setup. I have my fireproof surface covering my table here. I have my annealing pan with pumice stone, and in that annealing pan I've nestled a kiln brick that I've actually cut down to fit into the annealing pan. But I have just used my chain nose to carve out a little crevasse into the surface of my kiln brick. And into that deep crevasse I am going to put my little blank right here, and that nestles the blank nicely in the kiln brick so it's not going to move, and it also allows my jump ring to sit nice and flush on the surface. So here's the blank, nice close up here, it's all nestled into the kiln brick. And you can see my jump ring is nice and flush on the surface of the kiln brick. Now I've placed the kiln brick in the annealing pan because I like the convenience of the annealing pan. It helps me to rotate my piece and go all the way around 360 if I wanted to, which is awesome. It really helps me make sure that my piece is, when I'm soldering, to make sure that everything is all nice and evenly heated. But honestly, if you don't have an annealing pan, that's totally cool. You can place your kiln brick right on top of your soldering surface and you'll be just fine. I just like the convenience, and the annealing pan is also kind of fun. But let's actually get to work. Alrighty, so here we go. There is our jump ring all set up and ready to go. This is my titanium solder pick, and on my titanium solder pick I have placed a little bit of easy paste solder. Now I prefer paste solder for soldering jump rings because it's quick and easy. Remember, the flux is already mixed in to your paste solder, so it's just a single step. You don't have to add flux and then add your solder as you would if you were using wire or sheet. Now I'm going to place right on the join a little bit of that solder, and the perspective, it's kind of hard to tell, well, how much solder did she actually put on there? And I'm going to say it's about a seed bead's worth size, and specifically about a size 11 seed bead. If I mushed up all of this paste solder, it would resemble the size of a size 11 seed bead, or be about maybe about a 1 millimeter bead, pretty tiny. So you don't want so much that it's going to flow all over the place, but you don't want so little that it's not going to hold your piece together. All right, let's solder it closed. I'm going to turn on my butane torch. And I'm going to start from a little further back. Paste solder, you need to be careful as you are starting. You don't want to put your torch right up on it or the paste solder is going to jump right off. But you can see my flame's way back here and my piece is way up there. You can see how it's turning, it's getting a little darkened. The sterling silver is starting to get a little fire scale from the heat of the torch. That's okay. Now that I've noticed that my paste solder has stopped bubbling a little bit, it's pretty dry, I'm going to get in a little closer. Now this is going to go fast. I'm actually slowing this down a little bit for the camera. But as I come in, I'm just evenly heating that ring, and can you see how it's starting to really glow? I'm going to turn it around, and as soon as I see that solder flow, which you can see it right there, I'm going to remove my torch and call it a day. The jump ring is a pretty thin piece of metal, so you don't want your torch to linger around on there, or else you're going to have a jump ring that's been melted rather than soldered. So I'm going to let this cool for just a moment. So we've got a really close shot here so you can see what's going on. We're going to try this one more time. Our last jump ring soldered just perfectly, but this time you're going to really be able to see that solder flow. What I want you to look for, because I'm going to do this in real time and not take any pauses, what I want you to look for is you're actually going to see this. Here's the solder placed right here. Can you see that? Again, about the size of a size 11 seed bead. And you're going to see it run silver, like it's a little line of mercury. That's what you're looking for. And once you see that solder run, that's when you remove your torch. All right, let's give it a go. My torch is way back here and the flame is almost off camera. But you can see how the solder is starting to bubble up a little bit and get dry. Once that happens, that dries, I'm moving my torch in a little closer. You can see the glow of the torch. And I'm moving it in a circle. And did you see that run? Boom. That's just how fast it is in real time. We're all done. So here you can see my jump ring has been soldered and it's all set to go. Of course, I have quenched my pendant before I picked it up off of my kiln brick, or else I certainly wouldn't be able to be holding it in my hand. Here's the completed piece. You can see it does have some fire scale on it, but that's no big deal. It's easily cleaned with a little bit of penny bright, or if you have a pickle pot, you can just go ahead, toss this in, give it a few minutes, and the fire scale will all be gone. Now, if you can solder a jump ring onto a blank to make a pendant, you can also solder a series of jump rings together to make a little chain. And I'm going to show you how easy that is. Here I've put a jump ring right on top of my kiln brick and added my paste solder, and I'm just going to go ahead and solder this jump ring closed. So let's give it a go. Pop on my torch. This is going to go quickly, remember. Heating. Most of my torch is off camera here, but you can see, look at that, how that solder, paste solder is starting to dry. Once it's dried, ease in with the torch, and boom, there it goes. I'm going to go ahead and quench it. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Quench, and here it is. Let me dry it off just a moment there. And there we go. So that's one. Next, we're just going to keep building our chain. We don't actually need to clean this jump ring because the fresh new jump ring that we're going to put on is already nice and clean. So I'm going to grab this guy here, slide it on. I'm going to close it up. Now that I've attached the two jump rings together, I've placed the first jump ring that I've soldered down in the little well here, the little crevasse of my kiln brick, and just like the blank was that I soldered previously. Then my new jump ring is sitting nice and flush on the surface of the kiln brick. Now I'm just going to do the same thing. Pop the torch on and solder. Slowly heating that paste solder. Once it's dry, coming in, watch it flow, remove the torch. A quick note here, the last thing you want to do, kids, is solder these jump rings together. We're using easy paste solder on these, remember, so the flow temperature of each of these joins are going to be the same. So you want to make sure that wherever there's a solder join, that solder join isn't inadvertently touching a jump ring. In case it does flow, you don't want to accidentally solder these rings together. So you want to make sure that the rings are apart and that your solder join, my new one that I'm going to make, is on the opposite side over here than the rest of the chain, which is building off in this direction. I'll just continue to build my chain in this manner, adding a new jump ring, soldering, adding a new jump ring, soldering, until my chain is the length I like it, or I'm tired of doing this project. Either way. So here we have our completed pieces. I've added a few more jump rings to this length of chain, and I could continue on to make a finished chain and make that chain as long as I'd liked. And my piece here, my little stamped blank, the pendant is all ready. Both of these pieces I cleaned with some Penny Bright, but do remember you can use the pickle. All right, that's just how easy it is to solder jump rings. So enjoy, and I hope you make some terrific things.